Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to the viewers of ProsTalk, the corporate social responsibility of Buildy, the platform for anyone who builds. Today, we're very excited to have with us a foreign guest, MeiLani. She's the founder of Why Not Me app. And, to give you guys an introduction of what the app is for, how it can help you, let me turn it over to MeiLani. Welcome to ProsTalk, MeiLani.
Thank you so much. It's great to be on. I'm excited to be here. And just so we can we'll dive into it a little bit deeper, but it's actually not even an app. We're just going to talk about how anybody and everyone can get into the short-term rental business. Mm-hmm. And I'm simply a coach and a consultant for helping people to open short-term rentals as a full-time income if they want, or just as a side income that does very, very well. And so we'll talk about it's more of a coaching platform and mentorship of how to get you where you want to be with running short-term rentals or Airbnbs.
Right. So that's fantastic. So if people want to get a hold of you, ask questions, consult, you'll provide them a venue for them to reach out to you.
Yeah, definitely. I mostly on Instagram. If you reach out to either Why Not Me Academy, or if you also reach out to my name, MeiLani Hock, then we will get you in contact with whatever the latest and greatest is. We still have a website, of course, but we're always having free webinars every single week or different things going on. So if you want to know what's going on right now, then just reach it out to us on Instagram, and we have lots of good information that we will share with you.
All right, fantastic. So, MeiLani, why don't you just quickly walk us through? I know we know you're the founder of this company, but what is it that you do, and what is the mission, and how do you get to this? How did you get to this?
Great question. And I know I was, sometimes with these, I'm like, do you want the long answer or the short answer? So I'll give you kind of the middle answer, and then just cut me off if I'm telling too many details.
No, I think people are very excited to listen to you, because now that, we are allowed to travel again, people are itching to travel and have a vacation. So this is the perfect time for this. So I'm not going to cut you, because I'm pretty sure people would want to hear.
Yeah, well, so the actual business, so I used to flip houses, and I was in real estate investing in that form, and I was buying houses and tearing them down. But there came a point, well, let me even rewind a little bit further if it's okay, Nat. Yeah. The way I got into real estate investing was I have 5 young children, and right now my oldest is 13 and my youngest is 5. But at the time, baby number 4 was 6 weeks old when baby number 3 was diagnosed with brain cancer. And when he was diagnosed with brain cancer, and it was actually on his 2nd birthday, I realized all of the things I had, like nothing in the world mattered anymore, right? I was working every day so hard to get a paycheck so I could provide for my family. I was just working, I felt like, all the time. And all of a sudden my baby was diagnosed with brain cancer, and my whole world kind of stopped. And it was so weird to watch everybody else still going along with their lives when I was just like stopped. And we spent months and months in hospital rooms and in radiation and all sorts of things. And that gave me a chance to really think, what am I doing with my life? And at the time I was working for corporate America, but I had always wanted to be an investor, and to make sure that I was using my money so it was growing for me in a more creative ways. And while I was sitting in hospital rooms with my son, I had a lot of people ask, do you just say, why me? Why me? Why does this happen to me? And the truth is there have been many times in my life that I have thought, why me? But at this time, I don't want to offend anybody's beliefs and whatever that is for you, but I believe that there was some higher power, or I'll call it God, that was actually protecting our family. And so instead of saying, why me? Why did this happen to me? Instead, we say, why not me? why not me to do hard things? Because it's the hard things and it's the trials that are going to make us into the people that we're supposed to become, that we're going to be able to give back to the world while we are being carved and changed through our trials. And so instead of saying, why me, we say, why not me, to do amazing things, even if they're hard, right? And so that's where why not me came from. And so it's why not you, to live the life you want to live the dream life you want to live. Well, for me, at that time, and let me just also say that my son, that was 9 years ago almost, and he is doing great and he's healthy. That's and he's a miracle.
That's great to hear. I was like in suspense.
Right? Yeah, sorry. I've always got to remember to say that.
Great to hear.
Yeah, we're very lucky. We're very blessed. In fact, just this past weekend we went and we did a marathon, like a 5K race, and to celebrate our survivor. But as you ran the race, there were signs of all the ones that aren't with us any longer. And I was running the race and I was crying and sobbing, and it was just a beautiful reminder. But also we have AJ, my son, to remind us every day to live each day to the fullest, and to make sure that we're not just sitting back, but instead we're going out and attacking our dreams, right? And so for me, so AJ's doing great, right? But at that time, I quit my job. I went and started investing in real estate, started flipping houses, and it was going great for years and we were making great money. But then we hit a point where I was sick of rehabbing houses. I was leveraged about $4 million, and I had a bunch of projects go really, really bad. And I wanted to use all the things I had learned in real estate investing, but I wanted to use them in a less risky way, but also to have some sort of recurring income. Because when I was flipping houses, I would work on a project, and then it would take me months and months and months, and then I'd get a big check, and then I'd have to go back out and find another project. And which was great, and sometimes it was great when we were making great money, but when a handful of our projects went bad, I was burnt out and I needed to find something else. So instead, I wanted to find something with recurring streaming of income. And at that time, Airbnb was on the rise. And I was like, maybe I should try that. But at the time, I was in a lawsuit and I had a bunch of things going on with our projects that I didn't have enough money to go buy a bunch of houses to test them out as Airbnbs. So instead I had to get creative. Okay. And that's kind of leads us to what I call the 3 different types of Airbnb hosting. Okay. Because you can own a property. That's great. Yeah. If you own a property, you can Airbnb it. And when I say Airbnb, I actually just mean short-term rental, okay? Not just using the Airbnb platform, because you can use VRBO, you can use bookings.com. There's hundreds of different platforms out there you can use. But when we say Airbnb, it really just means a short-term rental, okay? So that when you're running an Airbnb, you can either own the property or you can rent it from somebody else and then sublet it out, okay? Or you can manage it for them, which is called co-hosting in the Airbnb world. And so I had to get creative in that phase because all my money was tied up in lawsuits. And so I had to get creative. And so I started first arbitraging, which is when I rent it from somebody and then I sublet it out. So the landlord is happy. They're getting a consistent check from a good renter who's keeping their property in a 5-star status, super clean. We want to be with them for a long time. So we're great renters. So the landlord's happy, but then I'm also happy because I'm making good money renting it out as a short-term rental instead of as a yearly rental. And so that's how I got into short-term rentals. And those are the 3 different kinds that now I run Airbnbs in all 3 types of those: arbitrage, where I'm renting and subletting, co-hosting, that I'm managing other properties, or properties that I actually own. Wow. And that's kind of our specialty to help with those.
Yeah, I think that's, I was just listening to you and I'm thinking, I never thought of that. So I'm pretty sure those that are watching us are like, yeah, why not? Because everyone would think you have to buy something, you need to own it. And I think that's a great, a great start. So tell us, I know you kind of briefly walked through it, right? In terms of how did you start up with your Airbnb business? But, without the money, and you just identified some of it, co-locating, or can you just walk the audience through what exactly happens?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was like, I like to jump in, right? And so I was like, I'm going to do 4. And so I did my first 4 within 4 months. And what that started was with arbitrage. Again, it's called arbitrage, where I rent it from somebody and then I rent it out. Now, what's the steps to actually finding those? The good news is there's a lot of people that are trying to rent out their house. And it could be, and let me just say that my properties, my Airbnbs they're not vacation rentals. Okay. So there's no palm trees, there's no beaches, there's no lakes. So many people, they think of Airbnbs and they think it's a vacation only destination. But I actually run transient Airbnbs, which means I look for places that are close to airports, universities, hospitals, and hotels. Okay, those are the 4 things I look for, because I know that people are traveling to that area if there are airports, hospitals, universities, and hotels. Okay, so not luxury. These aren't Hawaii. These aren't, nobody goes for a summer vacation to my properties usually, right? But people are traveling here all the time for business, to visit family, to visit graduations, all sorts of different things. And so I would find properties that were for rent, regular landlords that are just looking for a tenant. And I would go and I would say, hey, this is exactly what I've been looking for. It's perfect. I've always wanted to, this is exactly what I've been looking for. And I am going to keep it so clean. I'm going to have it professionally cleaned every week or month. Like, I'm going to take such good care of it. I'm going to keep it like 5-star status, because, and you're not saying exactly what you're doing yet, but you're perking the interest of the landlord. And then you'll say, I'll use whatever contract you want, but I just have to add an addendum to it. Okay. So, because you got to make sure that you add an addendum so that you're covered down the road legally. And then you might also say, and I want to be the last tenant you ever have, because when you're done being a landlord, I would like to buy the property from you. So I'm hoping to be in this property for 5 years, maybe 10, or until you're ready to sell it, right? And so as you're looking around for properties, you're looking for landlords that just want to rent out their property. And then you're going to run the numbers. And that's something that we have a free webinar we'd be happy to send you, of how to analyze how much you might be able to make with this property, with the rent that you'd be paying, with the utilities, all those things, and the projected income based on the nightly rate and occupancy. So yeah, that's how you first get into it. But then you'll also find people that might want you to manage the property. Maybe they kind of want to do it, but they don't want to do all the day-to-day of it. And so while you've already got systems set up running your Airbnbs, you can also help other people manage. And usually that would be, you charge them a percentage of the gross revenue. And so then you've got those 2 options of using other people's properties. Okay. In real estate investing, we talk a lot about using other people's money, but for this, we're talking about using other people's properties. And with co-hosting or management, I usually charge, it depends on where you are in the world, but the average across the world is about 20 to 25% for managing somebody else's short-term rental. And then with arbitrage, you're going to just pay the going rent, which sometimes I make 2 or 3 times more than my landlord does. But when the air conditioning breaks or when the roof starts leaking, I don't have to pay for it. The landlord does, right? So how crazy that using this, it's called arbitrage. Using arbitrage, you can actually, not only do you not have the pain of being a landlord that comes with that sometimes, but you can also make even more money than your landlord is making.
No, that is great. So how many units do you now have, and how many do you manage?
Great question. Okay, so like I said, I'm a mom of 5 kids, and honestly, this is just one of my streams of income. I'm a strong believer in diversifying your portfolio. So Airbnb is one of my favorites, I'll say, and has been my favorite for 5 years. But I have a few different businesses that I run too. So me personally, I love having 20 to 30 properties, That's my bread and butter. That's what I love. Now, some of my mentorship clients and students, some of them have 70 properties, 100 properties, because this is what they do. They got in and they just built it up. And that's awesome for them. They're doing great. But they don't, I like to be in other types of real estate, but also I like to be in stocks. I run a lot of different businesses. I love being a corporate trainer, and so I have lots of different things. This is not my only thing. And so I have students that have done great with multiple properties. I've seen people across the world that have 80 properties, 100 properties. Me personally, I love 20 to 30. And once I get to, let's say at that time I want to be at 25, and somebody approaches me with another property, or maybe I see another property that I think will be a top performer, what I do is I sell off my smallest performer. So whatever's bringing in the least amount, I just I sell that. I sell the furniture, I sell the contract, and it's a good performing Airbnb, but it's just not making as much money as my other ones. And so I will sell that off so that I'm always having the highest performers. Instead of taking all that I can, I select which ones are going to be the best performers.
Sounds great. What kind of numbers would you say happens, when you're at 25 to 30 units?
Good question. So let's take some examples. And this obviously is going to vary widely across the world, right? So depending on what you're listing, you're going to have to run the numbers by yourself, or come and contact us and we'll send you a webinar to walk you through it. Okay. But parts of the world, and this is, I'll give you two different case studies, and we're going to talk about arbitrage, right? So this is when we're renting it and then subletting it out. Okay. So let's say that my rent is $1,400. Okay. Just a small 2-bedroom townhome. Okay. A small apartment kind of. Okay. So let's say it's $1,400, and on average, in between changeovers, the cleaning fees are going to be, we'll say $320. Then we've got our utilities for the water and the heat. That's going to be $220. And then other fees to get it listed are about $200. So in total, that would be $2,140. Okay, so let's say, I know that these aren't simple numbers, but I'm giving you real numbers from a real case. I probably should have rounded them to make them easier, but I wanted to give you real facts. Okay, so our operating costs are about $2,100, we'll say. Okay, now based on the property that I'm looking at, the average revenue of this property was $3,600. Okay, so $3,600 per month. So I brought in that $3,600. My operating costs were again that $2,100. Okay, which means that I am making on that property $1,400. Okay, and if you remember, that's what my rent was too, right? So the landlord's making $1,400, and after all of my costs, I'm still making $1,400, right? So I'm making just as much as the landlord. He's happy, I'm happy, all is well, right? So as a whole, well, and here, let me give you another one, a little bit higher level. Okay. One of our 4-bedroom houses that is like a single family home, and the rent on that one is $2,500 per month. Okay. So we've got $2,500, and we add in the cleaning fees, which on this property, the average is $400, utilities, $375, extra fees are $420. So for this one, the operating costs are, we're going to say $3,700. Okay, $3,700 to run this property every month. Okay, now, but this property, this one, the gross revenue on this one is $7,000. So after I take the revenue of $7,000, I subtract out the $3,700. I am making $3,300 on this property. Now remember, I'm paying $2,500. So my landlord's getting $2,500. I'm getting, after I pay everything, I'm still getting $3,300 after I've paid all my expenses. And that is taken from an average of 3 months, okay, from the end of last year. Okay, now there are going to be ups and downs in the market. In fact, I'm just going to go on a tangent if it's okay, Nat, because in our area, we saw a significant decrease in January and February of this year. And occupancy rates were down 10% from last year. So there are going to be ups and downs. But we know that Airbnbs are not going anywhere, especially since COVID. So many more people like to have the private space. They don't want public lobbies. They want their own kitchen area. They want their privacy. And so many more people want the feel of a local home instead of just the touristy vibe, right? So even with the ups, you got to be ready for the ups and downs, but as a whole, it's pretty darn awesome, so that you can see how much potential. So if we're saying on average from 1,500 to 3,500, we'll take those as our range of properties times 20 properties, or however many you have. So I actually usually work backwards, and I say, how much do you want to make in a month to live your dream life? And then let's figure out how many properties and which type of properties we need to get you there.
I think the concept of arbitrage, I believe now people are picking up on. So from what you've described, that's the how you bring in sort of the revenue for the landlord and for yourself. What are the typical clients that you would encounter when you do this? Or are there clients that you feel more safe to do business with, and they are like, oh, I'm not?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. Okay, so I'm going to talk about two different types of clients, right? So I have my guests that come and stay at our Airbnbs, and the guests that come and stay at our Airbnbs, we never, ever allow them to come and stay for one night. Now, some of my students do, because you might have a property that's in a location that people don't come to that property for more than one day, okay? But of our properties, we don't want people going in just to throw a party, right? So we try to limit our parties, but as a whole, we also put a video doorbell on so that we can see who's coming and going. Depending on the platform that they book on, they also collect their driver's license, and that you can look at their reviews to see if they have good reviews in the past to allow them to book. So our typical clients, our typical guests in a transient location like most of ours are coming because maybe they're coming to move here, but they haven't bought a house yet. So they want to stay for 2 months while they buy a house. Or maybe they're coming for a graduation, or they're coming for a wedding celebration, or they're coming for a work trip for 3 weeks. So that's a lot of what our guests are. Now, my clients who I help do this, I have a bunch of different types of people. I have people that come to me and they say, I want to do this. How do I do what you're doing? And then I coach them, and I have an online course that they can watch videos, and they can get the checklist and all that, and they can learn how to do it. So that's my first type of client. But my other type of client is I have a job, but I've got extra money and I want to invest it. Where can I do with it? And how do I put it in real estate? And so sometimes I'll have that, and they'll come and we'll either open an Airbnb for them, or we will help them carry the note on the property that we actually are purchasing from them, which is a whole different webinar. But so those are my two types of clients that either want to get into short-term rental hosting and want to know how to do it, or they have money and they want it to go and be multiplied in some way. And that's what a lot of my international clients are, is that they have money that they want to invest into short-term rental or into real estate, and we help them put their money to use.
That's fantastic. So do you help them promote the units once they, let's say, the type of client that would make an investment? How do you promote them? Yeah.
So, you I don't know if you have the same saying, but we have a saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? And so we're going to lead you to the water, and we're going to show you exactly how to do it, but we want you to be able to do it on your own. And so we don't promote your units, but we will teach you how to promote your units on Airbnb and other platforms, and how to make sure that you are presenting yourself in a way, and you're presenting your listing in a way that will get the most attraction and the most bookings for the highest efficient rate.
Sounds great. So I just wanted to, from just a cost perspective in terms of the maintenance, what is a typical split that you would have there, right? So if you're maintaining a unit for a landlord, I mean, who carries the brunt of that cost? And are there any major concerns, right? Because I think one of the most expensive costs related to real estate is really the maintenance.
Yeah. So it depends on the contract we have. If we have an arbitrage contract, then it's just a typical landlord-renter relationship, meaning I've had probably hundreds of landlords because we've done a lot of properties over that time, right? And some of the landlords, they like to come in and change the air vents because they like to come and see the property and check up on the property. Other landlords I haven't seen ever. Some of my landlords I've never seen, right? And so we are in charge of changing the air vents, or if a toilet flapper breaks, we just take care of that, right? But if the plumbing breaks or if the roof is leaking, then we still go to the landlord. And it's similar if we're co-hosting or managing somebody else's property. However, it depends on that contract and that relationship we have with that landlord, because usually we will say, okay, do you want us to handle anything up to, we'll say $300 or $500 without bothering you? Or do you want to handle it? Because then you're going to be calling to see which plumber has the best pricing for what you want. And so depending on the co-hosting contract that you set up, you can choose, you can work out with them. Do you want to handle anything, or do you want me to just handle it? And we have some landlords that they want to handle it. They want to be involved because they want to make sure that they are getting a price that they feel comfortable. We have other landlords that are like, you know what, you handle it. I live out of state. I live out of country. If it's up to this price, then you just handle it. If it's above this price, you handle it, but give me a heads up that I know that I'm about to pay $3,000 or something like that. So you just have to figure out what your relationship is with each landlord and make sure you're sticking to the terms of your contract.
Right. So now that you mentioned that, given that, you're handling international properties as well, how does that work out from a contracting standpoint? Like, which laws apply, or do they need to secure their own lawyers, or how does that work?
Good question. Okay, so let me just clarify. I do not currently have any international properties. Unfortunately, I thought I was going to have some in March of 2020, but that obviously took a halt. So I do not have any I do not have any international contractors. So we help train people in their areas how to find their local contractors so that they can become the expert in the area. So they're then going to be managing for other people, right? Or if our investors are coming over and saying, here's your money, go and invest in Airbnb, in short-term rentals, we have our network already set up.
All right. So what are your views for, at least from an Asia Pacific market, Malaysia, Philippines? I know we've opened the doors already, and again, we're all crossing our fingers. No one really knows what the future holds. But what are your thoughts about this, part of the world?
Great question. Okay, so here's the thing, is that I never really wanted to be in the luxury or vacation market. So I never wanted to be in the luxury market. And so it really didn't affect us that much, because it doesn't matter if people are traveling. Now, let me clarify. The first 3 months of COVID were really terrible because nobody was going anywhere, even for business or anything like that, right? So the answer to your question is two parts. One is it's totally different from wherever you are and 10 minutes away. It could be totally different. So I really don't love putting blanket general statements on a whole market in general. But here is what I will say, is that the Airbnb CEO says they will need, this was in 2021, he said they need millions of more hosts and properties to meet the growing demand throughout the world, because there are so many people using it for business, using it, so many more people now, because they can work from anywhere, they're working from anywhere. And so it's not just travel anymore, it is working for business, it's just living on the road now. So this is a big niche that isn't going anywhere, and it's growing and growing worldwide. But you do need to be smart about just because somebody an hour away might be having success doesn't mean that you will. You need to analyze your own area, and wherever you're planning on being, maybe you're planning on opening one 20 minutes away, you need to analyze that area in particular. And there are ways that we can help you analyze that also. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you for that. So I think before we wrap things up, what, in general, or maybe at length, depends on you, but what would you advise to those that would like to, make an investment and take a serious stab at this Airbnb business?
Yeah. The first thing is I would, well, if you wanted to come to us, we'll send you a free webinar. You can get my book. My book's on Audible, or you can get it on Amazon. And it's called How to Start and Scale a B&B Business by MeiLani Hock. But also there's some webinars we could send you. And the biggest webinar is going to be how to analyze how much you can make. If you want to, depending on the area you're in, there are also online calculators that you can use to get an idea, but don't use that as the reason to go and buy a house, okay? Because those are just general until you've really run the comps in your area. You've run the comps on how much it should cost to rent, but you've also run the comps of how much you can really make on Airbnb. And you are going to have to take kind of a guess of, hopefully this works and I think that this is good, but you need to educate yourself on that first. And if you're just looking, so definitely reach out to us and we'll put you in contact. We sometimes have boot camp classes, which are 6 hours where we just help you walk through and analyze your properties. So that's what I would recommend. Or if you're just like, you know what, I have some money that I need to invest in real estate, then we'll help direct you in that position as well.
All right. MeiLani, thank you so much for being with us. So for the folks that are watching ProsTalk right now, I'm pretty sure you have picked up a lot of ideas, concepts in terms of, okay, how do we start your business without investing and buying a property and tying yourself up in loans? Because some people do that. Don't do that. For those who are watching. So again, MeiLani, before we let you go, can you just tell the audience how they can, learn more about your company and what all these fascinating things that you do?
Definitely. Yeah. Reach out to me on Instagram is the best, at Why Not Me Academy or at MeiLani Hock. We also have a website, whynotmeacademy.com. But you know what? I love connecting with you directly. So definitely send me a DM in Instagram and I'd love to hear any questions you might have and I'll see if I can help out.
All right, fantastic. So again, another episode of ProsTalk. For those who have been watching us, please look at MeiLani on Amazon, and again, just to validate everything, you can read the book that she has. Learn first before you pull the trigger, I think, is the message of this episode. This is a great way to start your own business or your own side hustle or whatever you want to call it. But again, right, I think the first key step is to first really understand, research, learn from experts, and that's what we do, MeiLani, in ProsTalk. We encourage the Filipino viewers to really invest the time in knowing, because anything that has to do with real estate it's not simple and it's not cheap. It's actually the opposite of those. So again, thank you so much for spending your morning with us. We appreciate it.
Definitely. Thank you, you guys.
All right.